Good evening friends, this is Professor Vishal and we will continue our lecture of subject chemistry, and we already started our first chapter, some basic concepts of chemistry, and in this session we are going to study Avogadro's hypothesis. Then we are going to discuss about the next portion of this subject or the particular chapter, that is we commonly called it as a how to calculate the mass, atomic mass unit and all these things. Okay, then we are discussing about the relative mass of the atoms, then we will discuss about gram atomic mass and all these things we are going to discuss in this session. Okay, now firstly, up to this what we have seen, basically most important, we started with classification of chemistry, then we finished the concepts like significant figures, or we also completed the laws, various laws of chemical combinations. Total 5 laws were there, we finished that all with the help of examples. Then we started in last session Dalton's atomic theory, assumptions and drawbacks we have seen. Then we finished the modern atomic theory also up to this session. Okay, now in this session we are going to discuss about the Avogadro's hypothesis, but before that I am going to tell you some just quickly revise you what exactly the Berzelius theorem. Okay, so according to Berzelius hypothesis, what this Berzelius hypothesis said, equal volume of all gases contains equal number of atoms. Okay, so for what it means exactly, I will give you one example and I will tell you. So for example, when hydrogen combined with chlorine, hydrogen gas combined with chlorine, we will get hydrochloric acid. Okay, so again it is in gaseous form. If we see by volume, so it contains one volume, and it is having two volumes. Okay, so I can say here it contains n atoms, it also contains n atoms, but it contains 2 n atoms, isn't it? Then if we see I'm taking this n as a 1, it contains one atom. Next, then if it is also contain one atom of chlorine, then I will get 2 compound atoms, isn't it? We called it as a molecules. So this is what the Berzelius hypothesis said to us. If I will take, let us say, half atom, and I will add half atom of chlorine in hydrogen of half atom, then I will get one atom, isn't it? So but if we take this example, it is completely not satisfied with Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, because Dalton said atom itself is the smallest indestructible particle, means we cannot divide the atom, but here we have taken half atom and half atom. So in this way we can say that whatever the Berzelius said, it is not like the Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, now after this we are going to discuss about the Avogadro's hypothesis. It is closely related with Berzelius hypothesis, so I will give you basic introduction of this hypothesis. Now after this we are going to discuss about the Avogadro's hypothesis. That is Avogadro's hypothesis. So according to Avogadro's hypothesis, equal volume of all gases contains equal number of molecules. Means, for example, let us say I am taking 3 pots, for example, each having each contains 1 liter quantity. For example, first pot contains 1 liter of hydrogen, second contains 1 liter of oxygen, and third contains 1 liter of chlorine, let us say. Okay, and these 3 pots are having non-return wall or stop wall at their top end, and when I will count the molecules of that 1 liter volume of the 3 different gases, what I will come to know, all the volumes or all 3 pots contains equal number of molecules, isn't it? Means what, volume is 1 liter and I will get same number of molecules in it. Okay, so therefore I can Right here Avogadro's hypothesis. According to this, equal volume of all gases contains equal number of molecules at standard temperature and pressure condition. This is most important, or we commonly call it as a normal temperature and pressure. Okay, you can use any standard temperature pressure or normal temperature pressure. Means if I am taking equal volume of gases, they will contain equal number of molecules at standard temperature and pressure conditions. Now question arises here, what do you mean by standard temperature and pressure condition? Here if you see, two terms are involved. First is a temperature and second one is a pressure. Now standard temperature means, I will write here, standard temperature is always 273 Kelvin. Okay, 273 Kelvin. And standard pressure is what? Standard pressure is generally 1 atmosphere pressure. Okay, so this is what the normal temperature pressure condition, or we call it as a standard temperature pressure condition. Okay, so at this condition means if your temperature is 273 Kelvin and if your pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure, then we can say that equal volume of all gases contains equal number of molecules. Okay, so for example, I will give you here one practical example. Let us say I am having 3 pots. Okay, this is, let us say, first, so which is having opening, but here the stop wall is there. Okay, this is your first pot. Similarly here I am going to take second pot, so whose again at the end stop wall is there, and at third it contains stop wall at its top end. Okay, let us say this is your second jar and third jar. Okay, for example, this contains 1 liter of hydrogen, this contains 1 liter of oxygen, and this contains 1 liter of, let us say, chlorine. Okay, so it contains molecules. If you see, these three pots contains 1 liter volume, isn't it? Here 1 liter of hydrogen, here 1 liter of oxygen, and third jar or pot 1 liter of chlorine is there. If I will count the volumes in each of these pots, I will get same quantity, same number of volume. So I can say that equal volume of all gases, here are 3 gases I am considering and having equal volume, that is 1 liter, contains equal number of same number of molecules at standard temperature pressure condition. Okay, so this is what the statement of Avogadro's law. Okay, or we can say it as a Avogadro's hypothesis. Okay, now if we see, number of molecules in all 3 are same, hence this hypothesis is proved, we can say, with the help of this example. Then if we see, I will give you one more example here. Let us say 2 hydrogen atoms combined with oxygen. I will get this example is like this. Yes, okay, 2 hydrogen atoms combined with oxygen, I will get 2 times H2O. In this reaction, if we see, it contains 2 moles, it contains 1 moles, and it contains 2 moles, or we can say that this is nothing but 2:1:2, isn't it? If we see, you will come to know with the help of this example, I can say that Avogadro's hypothesis is also verifying Gay-Lussac's law, isn't it? What Gay-Lussac's law said? According to Gay-Lussac's law, if I am going to combine 2 or more gases in order to get third gas, okay, then reactant side and product side bears whole number ratio with each other. So here also you will come to know, here we will get whole number ratio with each other. So this is what, we can say that Avogadro's hypothesis, or according to Avogadro, Gay-Lussac's law can be easily explained. Okay, so in this way we have seen this Avogadro's hypothesis. Okay. Okay, we will continue our this part, that is atomic mass unit. Because we have seen this concept, atomic mass unit. Basically, this is the one of the unit in order to measure the mass of atom. Okay, of an atom. So one atomic mass unit is equal to, basically it is unit quantity, it is 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 24 grams. Okay, so means if I want to express in grams, so this is 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 24. Okay, here we have a mass of hydrogen with us. Okay, as we already discussed, this is the standard for which we are considering relative mass and calculated the mass of other atoms. For example, mass of atom, or we can say mass of hydrogen, is 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 24 gram. Okay, so this is the mass of hydrogen atom. If I want to convert this hydrogen mass of hydrogen atom into atomic mass unit, simply I will use unitary method. Let us say 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 24 grams equal to 1 atomic mass unit, isn't it? So I just writing this in this way. 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 24 grams means 1 atomic mass unit. Therefore 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 24 grams equal to how much AMUs? Therefore I can write here 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 24 into 1 divided by 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 24, isn't it? So this minus 24 gets cancelled, and I will get 1.67 divided by 1.66, so it is found to be 1.008 AMU. Means what it means if the mass of hydrogen is 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 24 gram, means what? It is 1.008 atomic mass unit. So in this way we all are going to expressing this unit, atomic mass unit. Okay, after this we are going to discuss about the next term, that is relative or average atomic masses. So this is a basic unit, atomic mass unit. Then we are going to discuss average unit masses. We call it as a relative also. Relative or average unit masses. Now basically this unit or relative or average unit masses is used to calculate the percentage of isotopes in an element. Use for finding percentage of isotopes in an element. Okay, so for which I am giving one example of chlorine. So if you see chlorine atom, you will get two isotopes of chlorine, that is chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. Okay, I am going to take these isotopes. Basically they are combined in the ratio 3:1. Okay, means what? If 3 atoms of chlorine 35 is there, 1 atom of chlorine 37 is there. Okay, so if I want to calculate the average unit mass of this chlorine considering these isotopes, I have to use the simple formula, which is equal to m into A plus n into B divided by m plus n. Okay, where this m is what? Ratio of first isotope. This is the ratio of first isotope. A is what? A is the atomic number of chlorine, or first isotope, we can say first isotope in the given pair. Okay, m is a ratio of first isotopes. Ma is atomic mass of first isotope. Sorry, this is atomic, not atomic number, this is atomic mass. Okay, then n is what? N is a ratio of second isotope. or we can write down here instead of ratio value of first isotope in given ratio. Isn't it? Here value of second isotope, I just correct it, value of first isotope in given ratio, okay, which is in this case is 3, and our value of A is what, 35, okay, value of second isotope in given ratio, here it is 1, isn't it? So this one. And what is B? B is what, atomic mass of second isotope, that is 37. So I will put the value as a 37. Okay, now I will put the values as we already discussed here. M is what, value of first isotope in a given ratio, which is 3. So I will put in here value of 3 into A is what, atomic mass of first isotope, which is 35, plus as it is. Again N is value of second isotope in a given ratio, which is 1, and B is what, atomic mass of second ratio, that is 37. So it becomes 37, and M plus N is what, 3 plus 1. Okay, so if I will simplify it, I will get 5 3s are 15, and this is 10, okay, plus 37 divided by 4. If I will add it, 42, it becomes 142 divided by 4. So it is 4 3s are 12, okay, 2 is remaining, 4 5s are 50, again 5, that is 20. So 35.5, yes, 35.5 is what, average unit mass of chlorine. It is not 35, it is not 37, okay. So for chlorine isotope, if I want to calculate the relative or average unit mass, it is found to be 35.5, okay. So this is how you are going to calculate the average or relative unit mass. So after this we are going to discuss next term, which is closely related to this mass, that is gram atomic mass. So this is given unit, which is not given, so you just have to write down units. So it is not 35 units, it is not 37 unit. What is the relative or average unit mass of this chlorine is what, it is 35.5. It is not average atomic mass, we call it as average atomic mass. So correct it here. We can call this a unit quantity, but actually it is average atomic mass. So what I can say, considering this example, average atomic mass of chlorine is not 35, it is also not 37, it is up to mark, it is 35.5 units, okay. Then we are going to see the next concept, that we called it as a gram unit mass or gram atomic mass. Next one is gram atomic mass. It is very simple. When we express atomic mass in grams, then we call it as a gram atomic mass, okay. Simply I will give you one example. For example, oxygen, we are taking this as a 16 atomic mass unit, isn't it? If I will mention it is a 16 gram, then we can say gram atomic mass, it is a gram atomic mass. Or for example H2, we call it as a 2 atomic mass unit, so it is nothing but 2 grams. So in this way you can easily put the value of gram atomic mass over there. So after that we are going to discuss next part, that is molecular mass, how to calculate the molecular mass. So with the help of these two examples, I hope it will be clear for you about gram atomic mass, okay. Now what exactly the molecular mass? Basically we have seen two types of atoms are there, homoatomic and heteroatomic. So for example, molecular mass, for example I will give you simply hydrogen is there. Okay, so it contains two atoms having atomic mass 1 plus of hydrogen. For oxygen it is 1, so it is 1 into 16. Okay, 2 plus 16, it is nothing but 18. So I can say 18 unit is the molecular mass of hydrogen. Simply in that way you just have to consider the atomic number, and considering its number of atoms present in that compound you can easily calculate the molecular mass. So this is for simple elements. We can take any complicated elements also. For example, let us say I am taking sucrose. Okay, that is C12EH22O7. Okay, carbon 12 atoms, hydrogen 22 atoms, oxygen 7 atoms. So here if we take 14 into 12, isn't it atomic number of carbons, plus 1 into 22 plus 7 into 16. Okay, if you will add it you will get the answer. So I will directly write down, it is approximately 342 units. Okay, we will discuss this term in our next session again in detail. So basically in this way I am giving you just general idea how to calculate the molecular mass, because see, for mole concepts and for further problems we need it. So in order to know, in order to understand, we are going to discuss in detail about this molecular mass. Okay, thank you. So this is all about Avogadro's hypothesis. So if we see with the help of example, according to Avogadro's hypothesis, Gay-Lussac's law can also be verified. This is most important, you have to remember this. Then we will proceed. Now we are going to discuss about next point, that is we commonly called it as a atomicity. So this is the most important property. We will just take it and we will proceed. Atomicity. Basically when we discuss about the atomicity, it is the property of atom or we can say it is the property of elements in which we will get number of atoms contained in that element. Okay, or we can say number of atoms in that particular element is known as atomicity of that element. Okay, so number of atoms present in a molecule, more or less we can define it as a number of atoms present in a molecule, or we can call it as a compound atom also. Okay, so as I told you, okay, for example if I am giving let us say O2. So if we see here, two atoms of oxygen are there, two atoms of oxygen, so we called it as a diatomic, isn't it? So this is what the atomicity is, simply number of atoms present in a molecule or compound atom. We call it as a atomicity of that particular molecule. Here if you see the example, I am going to give you example of O2. It contains two atoms of oxygen, we called it as a diatomic. Okay, or more second example I will give you, O3, that is ozone. It contains three atoms of oxygen, isn't it? So we called it as a triatomic. So in this way we are going to discuss. We can take any example, let us say H2. So it contains two hydrogen atoms, so it is diatomic, or Cl2, or you can take n number of examples for this. But the most important thing is that atomicity is nothing but number of atoms present inside the molecule or compound atom. Okay, so you can see this example. If you want, you can take the snapshot. I will proceed. Okay, so most of the times this definition is asked in your examination. Okay, then we are discussing about two important terms given by Avogadro's hypothesis. First one is atom and second one is molecule. Okay, according to Avogadro, atom is the smallest particle which may or may not have independent existence. Okay, so when atom is defined by Avogadro, he told us that atom is the smallest particle of a substance which may or may not have independent existence. Okay, and common examples, let us say all inert gases such as argon, krypton, so they are neon, they all are generally atoms, or we can say metals such as silver, gold, copper, ferrous. So they all are atoms according to Avogadro, because they are smallest particle, they may or may not have independent existence. Okay, and what about molecule? Molecule is also particle of an element, but it has having some independent existence. Okay, in case of atoms may or may not have independent existence, but in case of molecule there is an independent existence. Okay, and when we take the example of molecules, we will come to know such as oxygen, chlorine, bromine. So calcium, they are all what we can say molecules. Okay, so we will discuss this. After atomicity, we are going to discuss two important terms given by Avogadro's theorem, out of which first is the atom. Okay, and second I am going to discuss with you, that is molecules. Okay, so according to Avogadro, atom is the smallest particle of a substance. So this is the smallest particle of a substance which may or may not have independent existence. Okay, so this is how Avogadro defines the atom. Okay, so for example, as we already discussed, all inert gases such as we can take it as a neon, argon, like this. Then the second example is metals, generally silver, then ferrous, then sodium. So they all are metals, and they are nothing but the atoms. It consists of atoms. Okay, then what about molecules? It is also smallest particle of a substance capable of having independent existence. So what about molecule? Molecules are also smallest particle having capability of independent existence. Okay, so they will call it as a molecule. So, and as we all know, all molecules are composed from the atoms, isn't it? So this is most important. All molecules composed from atoms, we can say. Okay, atom is the basis for molecule. Okay, now we will see the example of molecules such as O2, Cl2, or we can say oxygen, Cl2, bromine. So these are nothing but the molecules. Okay, now if we see, as we all know, molecules are composed from atoms. So basically there are two types of molecules. When we classify the molecules, we will get there. We are going to discuss about two important types. First one is homoatomic molecules, and second one is heteroatomic molecules. Okay, so we will discuss it. So as we already know, molecules are the smallest particle capable of having independent existence, and molecules are composed from atoms. So based on this, I will give you classification of molecules. So basically there are two types. homoatomic molecules. Okay, and second one is heteroatomic molecules. Basically, this homo word means what? Same, and hetero means different. Means what? If different atoms, same atoms are there, we can call it as a homoatomic. If different atoms are there, we call it as a heteroatomic. So I will give you some examples. Let us say oxygen, or we can say chlorine, or we can say sulfur. If we see two atoms of oxygen are there, or we can also take the example O3, three atoms of oxygen, then chlorine Cl2, then sulfur. Here you will come to know both atoms are of same type, isn't it? Hence we call it as a homoatomic. So these are the common examples. Now what about heteroatomic? We commonly call it as a compounds generally. So let us say H2O is there, or S2O is there, or we can say CaO is there. So these are nothing but the heteroatomic molecules, because see here we will get two types of atoms. First one is hydrogen and oxygen, here sulfur and oxygen, here calcium and oxygen. So we called it as a heteroatomic molecules. So this is how the molecules are classified. Okay, now after this we are going to discuss about the next part, that is most important. We already studied that from Dalton, or from modern atomic theory, or in Avogadro's what we can say Avogadro's hypothesis or Berzelius hypothesis. We seen that atom is the smallest particle. Okay, now if I want to find out the mass of atom, how can I find out? Because it is the smallest particle. If I will count it, it is not possible for me to count the mass of that particular atom. Now that interesting part we are going to discuss in our next part, that is mass of an atom. Okay, mass of an atom. So as we all know, atom is the smallest particle, and we as it is small in size, we cannot measure its mass. So what we have to do then? So then we have to find out relative mass of some other atoms. So for which we must have some references, so that we will compare, and we will calculate the mass of we will first calculate the relative mass. Okay, then we will get mass of an atom, and based on that relative mass we will compare, and we will find out the mass of firstly relative mass, and then we will get our respective mass of particular atom. Then here we will see now what are the various what are the various standard masses to which we are going to compare. First we are going to discuss about the hydrogen. First mass for which we can calculate the relative mass is mass of hydrogen. Okay, here what we do, we calculate the mass of hydrogen, and we will compare it and find the relative value of mass of respective atoms. For second comparing or standard atom is what? Oxygen, we can say. Okay, we are using this hydrogen and oxygen for comparison, and we can find out the mass of an atom. Okay, then most common reference or standard mass is used as isotopes of carbon. Isotopes of carbon such as C12. So there are two isotopes, C14 and C12. Mostly we are using this C12. Okay, so in order to measure the mass, we will first calculate the C12, and we will compare. We will get 1/12 the mass of that atom. That gives me atomic mass of that particular atom. Okay, so we will see here then what are the various types or units of calculating atomic mass. So first unit we are going to discuss is atomic mass unit. Okay, we commonly call it as AMU. That is atomic mass unit. It is also known as AMU. Okay, so basically see what is this atomic mass unit.